It's times that I just sit back and just look, and I ask, where did this come from? Because the things that I see in my sons, I didn't show them that stuff. You know, a lot of things I didn't show them, but it's in them. It's instilled in them. I was raised by a single mother. My father was available, but he wasn't present. That's a difference. He say, you'll bounce back in no time. You're a Gilmore.
Straight up.
You're a Gilmore. So our name meant something, and we protected that, you know. You're going to be hardworking. You're going to be passionate about the things that you need to be passionate about for. As I began to grow in God and mature in Him, I realized that God had been speaking to me my whole life. My whole life. As a child, God would speak to me. But we got in an environment with some other people, and the guys that were, I thought, now they're using the N-word. And so I could have cut up. But it was more them than me. And I started playing football. I went and played football, man. I immediately fell in love with it. One of my greatest regrets as a parent was the way that I handled his recruitment.
So let me ask you this. You coaching, you in college, you the head coach. You got Eddie in his prime, Jamie in his prime, Jaron in his prime. You get to pick one of these kids. You got one scholarship left. Who you getting a scholarship to and why?
Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Oh yeah, talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Let's talk about the love. Let's talk about communication. Oh yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your host, William Robinson of TLC Talk Love and Communication, ladies and gentlemen. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Jamie Gilmore Sr. He's going to give us some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, some input into his life and how he has become the man that he is today, ladies and gentlemen. And without further ado, we're going to give this young man a special round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing now, Mr. Gilmore?
Good evening, Pete. Big Pete. How you doing, man?
All
Good
right,
to be here.
man.
Thank you
All
for
right.
having me.
How you ride over was, man?
Oh, man, everything was wonderful, man. It's been an exciting day. Kind of looking forward to this evening, and just looking forward to break bread with you, man.
Okay, then. So tell my audience a little bit about yourself, sir.
My name is Jamie Gilmore Sr., Reverend Jamie Gilmore Sr., Pastor Gilmore, Pastor G. There's a lot to share. Been married to my high school sweetheart for going on 26 years. Romitha Gilmore. We have three sons, Eddie, Jamie, and Jaron. God has blessed me with a wonderful, beautiful family. I don't know what I did to deserve it, but I'm grateful. Just a love of God, man, a love of people, and I like to tell people that when it's all said and done, if nothing else, if people said that I was a good guy, I'll be satisfied. Amen.
Yeah, you you definitely a good guy, man. You always always been straight up. You know what I mean? Meant what you said what you meant. And and that with that type attitude and personality, it comes in play being a reverend, correct?
Definitely. You want to have a good relationship with people. You want to have integrity amongst the people, and you want people to think well of you. A lot of times I hear people say things like, I don't care what people think about me. I don't feel that I have that luxury. And as a matter of fact, I want people to think good of me. That doesn't mean that what you think is going to determine how and what I do, but it's the way that I do things, or I choose to do things. Is I want people to think well. I want to be an example. I want to be someone to say, hey, do it that way. Ask him about it. He did it, So I want to be just known as a good guy, man.
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you.
Yeah.
I often say that. I always say, hey, man, I care, but I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, I care. I would like to resolve this issue that we may have or whatever. I'm here because I'm concerned, but in the end, if you feel how you feel, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Life goes on. You know what I'm saying? I'm big on priorities.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? I will prioritize things. You know, you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G.
Right.
When I got 2 issues, I look on the priority list.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a C and an E, I'm going to choose C and live with it.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
You know, you spoke about being an example. You know, you have a Jamie Gilmore Jr.
Right.
I mean, identical. I mean, this young man is doing great things in the community. Great things in the community.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, as a father, how proud are you of that?
Oh, I can't put words to it. It's times that I just sit back and just look and I ask, where did this come from? Because the things that I see in my sons, I didn't show them that stuff. You know, a lot of things I didn't show them, but it's in them. It's instilled in them. I just, like I say, I'm just grateful. God allowed me to be along for the ride, you know. And people often ask, you know, what did my wife and I do to have our boys to have their success at certain intervals in their lives, and a lot of times, the only thing I could say was that we were just there. You know, we were always present. You know, and that was a big thing for us to be present, no matter what, no matter how big, no matter how small the event. We were always present. You know, and when I think about my boys, they all played football, great football players. They all went on to play college football, but during their high school careers, for all of them, I probably missed maybe 20 practices combined for all 3 of them.
All the games.
Every game I was there, no matter how far it was, we were there. No matter what night, we were there.
Yeah.
And that's, we were blessed to have that luxury. It wasn't easy. We took some sacrifices, but I went to every single practice.
You know, I remember interviewing your son maybe about 2 years ago, and he spoke of, you know, going off to college. You know what I'm saying? Being alone, you know, not having mom and dad there for the first time, especially when you are a present father. You know, when you look around and you know, there's no mother, there's no father, you know, and he spoke of, you know, just going through a rough patch. And he made a phone call to you, you know, and you could sense it. He said he didn't know how you knew, you know. And next thing he know, he got a phone call and you were downstairs.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I mean,
I remember that very vividly. He was in Philadelphia. He was playing for Temple at the time. He was playing football at Temple University at the time. And as a matter of fact, I was traveling, working, and I was working down in Fort Lauderdale. And like he said, something just wasn't right. I spoke to him the night before, and I could tell something wasn't right with him. And so I was at work, and I literally went to the bathroom, and I booked a flight from Miami Airport to Philadelphia.
Okay, straight up
from work, and I left work and caught that flight the same day, and flew to Philadelphia.
You know, and you ask, you know, some of the answers to your own questions is in situations like that. You say, well, what did we do? You know, I didn't give them this. Where did it come from? You did give it to them. You understand what I'm saying? Situations like that, you know, and that was very monumental and pivotal in his life. And he's doing the same thing in so many other young men's life who may not have a Jamie Gilmore Sr. You know, and when we think of Jamie Gilmore, you know, we all want our children to be greater than us. You know, you Reverend G, you know, Pastor Gilmore. But here, you know, when we hear Jamie Gilmore, we think a cut different.
Exactly.
You understand?
Exactly. Exactly.
And you know, and to have your name in the spitting image. You understand what I'm saying? And even your oldest son,
Eddie,
they have a spirit about them. They're very respectful. They have a very inviting spirit. You know, I've never met your youngest son, but Jamie crazy about it. You know, he said he feel like sometimes, you know, that's his son. As far as, you know, like the brotherless and the, you know, the brother that's right above him and the time spent. You know, those things are so important. How important is it to have a father in the home, sir?
Well, to unpack that, I have to go back to my upbringing. I was raised by a single mother. My father was available, but he wasn't present. That's a difference.
Yes, sir.
My father didn't live in Marion County. He lived in Putnam County, the Plaque area. He's available. I can get on the phone and call my dad, but he wasn't present. You know, he had a family of his own. And he would drop, you know, at a drop of a dime, and he would come and see about me if he needed to. But a lot of times it's not about being able to answer a phone call. You know, sometimes you just need to be there, you know, in the thick of things, in the moment. And so there are a lot of things that I may not have had in my life, but I made sure that they had in theirs. I was raised by my mother, but there was also a village. I spent a lot of time at my grandparents' house. So my grandfather was that male, you know, mentor, that male role model. He was a very hardworking man, you know, and he just took care of his family. Humble man, but you didn't want to cross him, you know.
What's the single most important lesson you learned from him?
From my grandfather? Single most, that's a great question. I would say, I don't know if I could put it in words, but I would say that just watching him, you didn't have to be loud to be strong. And a lot of times as men, we feel we have to talk bad to be strong. We have to talk a good game. My grandfather was a very, very humble man. He enjoyed life. He just sat around for the most part in his spare time and watch sports and watch TV. And he was at the house. And about the most things that he did is far away from the house. We go to the highlight.
They don't know about the highlight.
The highlight, you know. So, but you know, things of that nature. So I learned there was a lot more that was caught than taught. So so I learned a lot from watching him. I watched the way that he loved my grandmother. I watched the way he took care of his family, and so I watched their relationship, and that had a very, very deep impact on the way that I thought a family should be.
You know, when we think of traditional relationships, you know, my grandfather was the same. You know, granddad, I've never heard my granddaddy raise his voice. He said what he said, and you know what I mean. And he, you know, if you didn't, he just wasn't around stupidity, so to speak.
Right.
And I find myself as I get older, I see my grandfather in me a lot. I spent a lot of time around him, and you know. But when we think of traditional relationships, you know, like back then when grandmother and grandfather, you know, when we saw those things and people was in relationships longer, you know, there was marriages, you know, it was more marriage within our community back then than it is now. You understand what I'm saying? And for you to be married as long as you have, for you to meet your wife in high school and maintain this relationship, everybody have the ups and downs.
Exactly.
Did you, by you witnessing grandmother and grandfather, you think that played a pivotal role?
Yeah, to a certain extent, it did. The only thing that I could say is my wife and I, we met as 16, 17-year-old kids. In the summer of 92.
92 was that year, wasn't it?
92. We graduated in 93, but we met in 92. And we had to grow up together. We literally raised each other. When I say raised each other, we had to take our mistakes and learn from our own mistakes along the way. And at the same time we were doing that, we were raising children, because coming out of high school, we started a family immediately. Well, as a matter of fact, we started a family before we left high school. And while most of our classmates were going off to college, going off to the military, we were starting a family with 2 kids, you know. So it wasn't always easy. There was some difficult times there. I did some stupid stuff. She did some stupid, however you may have looked at it. But God had his hands on it. And for the things that we were able to endure, it was nobody but God. I'll say this about marriage, as far as why marriages don't last and why people don't stay together. We have patience, and we have mercy, grace, mercy, and we have forgiveness for everybody but our spouses. You know, somebody can betray you in the streets, and you'll deal with them.
You know, it's funny you say that, because I did a thing when I kind of first went to doing this, and it was about why do we forgive our friends before we forgive our family members. We are not talked to a family member for 10 years, but a friend will betray you and you'll go right back and befriend them. Why do you think that is?
I think it is because of perception. And when I say perception, it's the way that people perceive us. That's why our mothers, our fathers, they always said, keep people out of your business. Because if something goes on in our household, as long as no one knows about it but you and I, it's easier to deal with it.
They perceive that we got everything buttoned up.
Yeah. But if someone knows what may have taken place in our household, then we have to deal with their opinion and their perception of what took place. So if say, for instance, in my house, if something happened and I hurt my wife, she can deal with it easier when she don't have friends in her ear saying, I wouldn't put up with that. I can't believe he did that. You know, because with all of that's pressure, because when she forgives me, she still has to deal with her friends that have the opinion that you are stupid. So those type things. So when we learn to deal with things of that nature in our household, and we learn that we have to have mercy and forgiveness and grace for our spouses too, our partners too, then we can get through things. And then that may be the moment that you take the attitude that I don't care what you think. I've got to make this work for the betterment of my household. There's a lot of stuff that and I always use the team analogy. I use a team analogy with my family. I use it in ministry. You know, you got to consider the team in everything that you do. And if we're going through things and we're making decisions selfishly and not considering the team, then we got a problem. You know,
we can't win.
No, I've been working at my job for over 20 years, and early mornings, even right now, I wake up between 3:30 and 4 o'clock every morning. I don't do that because I want to. I don't do that because it feels good. I do that because of the team.
Right.
You know, so you have to consider the team. And so and when you consider the team, you ultimately you play your part, you practice, you work at it, and all of these type things, and just for the team.
That's right. You know, you said 2 words earlier. You mentioned them twice, and that's grace and mercy. You know, a lot of people everyone wants grace and mercy. But when it's time for them to extend grace and mercy, it's another thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody, when we talk about Jesus, you know, we say, my Lord and Savior. Everybody want the Savior, but nobody wants the Lord. You know what I mean? Lord means ruler. You know, you don't want to do what he say. You just want him to come save you when you when you don't got in trouble.
Right.
So let's talk about grace and mercy. How important is grace and mercy in any relationship?
It's essential. You because the Bible speaks of freely giving and freely receiving, and it's got to be with that. And also one of our the scriptures that we quote: "Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, shall men given to your bosom." So we always apply that to money.
Yeah.
But take money out of the equation and think about that with grace.
Yeah.
Give, and it shall be given. Give grace, and grace shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together. So basically, you give it, but it's coming back to you 2, 3, 4, 10, 100-fold. So not to get away from your question, it's essential, and it has to be reciprocated, and it has to be natural. It has to be unconscious.
You know, one of the first things God created was this earth. You know what I mean? Earth teaches us how we should act. You know, a seed. You know what I mean? We talking about the scripture, you know, about, you know, give and it shall be given unto you. If you plant the seed, you'll receive of that seed. So if you give grace, you can receive grace.
Amen. Amen.
If you give mercy, you'll receive mercy. If you don't give no grace, why should you receive grace? Why should you expect it?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I mean? So in that aspect, you know, every word, everything you do is a seed, is a reflection. You know, just look at it, what your actions do as a mirror of what you should receive. And you know, Jesus he made it real simple for us. They were asking him, well, which law is more important? Which commandment? And he summed it up, man, just doing the others, you want done unto you, man. Straight up.
Yeah.
Just simple as that. You want grace, give grace. You want mercy, give mercy.
Right. And in relationships, in order for them to have longevity, it's essential. It won't last without it.
You know, I always make the statement when it comes to marriage, it takes more than love. Love alone ain't gonna do it. You understand what I'm saying? Because some days you're gonna feel like you don't love.
Right.
You know.
And
so
go ahead.
If you had to describe love in one word, what would it be?
Sheesh. Sacrifice.
And my man, well, I'm telling you something. I used to always say, I got married at 19 years old also, as a kid. You know, we kids, raising kids, and my kid marriage didn't work, so I commend you. You understand what I'm saying? I used to say compromising, because as a married couple, as a married man, you definitely need to learn how to compromise. You know, and it wasn't until I sat and watched my grandmother. My grandmother was dying of cancer, and I'm sitting there watching her. I say, sacrifice. You can't love someone if you ain't willing to sacrifice. You know what I mean? Jesus came and died as a living sacrifice. You know, he you know what I mean? Jesus was God in the flesh, but yet when it came time, he said he prayed so hard that his sweat was blood, huh?
Amen. Amen. You remind me, man, it's been about 11 years ago. My grandfather passed. My grandfather, all of his life, my grandmother worked also. My grandfather, he worked in the woods. He was logged, you know. My grandmother, she worked at the hospital. She retired before he did, but then eventually he retired. And all of my life, I can remember that my grandmother made sure that at home, my grandfather didn't want for anything. Although she worked, I never heard her make a statement like, I work just like you.
Right.
stuff like that. She had daughters, and when she wasn't at home, she taught the daughters to make sure that your father's taking care of them. So as they got older, her health began to diminish a little bit faster than his did. So he was able to take care of her. So my grandfather, who I never saw cook, I never saw him wash dishes or anything, that growing up, when my grandmother's health, when she became weak, he would get up in the morning and cook breakfast for her. He would make sure that the house was clean the best he could. And even on the day that he passed away, I'll never forget this, and it was always significant. My grandfather, he was in, because they never watched the same thing on TV. She had a TV in the living room. He had a TV in the bedroom. So he came out and he asked her, do you need anything? And she said, I can't even remember what she asked him to get him. He said he got it for her. He said, okay, you need anything else? She said, no, I'm good. He said, all right, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to rest a little while. He laid down and he died right there in the bed. Even on his last day, before he would go and rest, what would be eternal rest, his last thing that he did on this earth was to make sure that she had what she needed at that particular time. Sacrifice.
And that's what love looked like, man. And that's what we need to get back to as people in general, but especially in our community. I interview so many young ladies. Some of them be beautiful. Some of them have great careers. But Thanksgiving, Christmas, they crying on New Year's Eve. You understand what I'm saying? And it looks so good, perception. The perception on Facebook is, oh, boy, she living her life. They got all these things now to substitute not having the husband there. And these the type things people don't like to, galantine, and they make it up all these things that we don't need a man. We just bring my home, my girl, my sister, my daughter now. You know what I mean? My thing is I just want to get back to family. Family is so important. The government, the Section 8, it's designed, you can have everything. We'll pay every one of your bills. You just can't have no man. That's what it sums up to.
Exactly.
So why is it so important for you not to have the man in the household? It seems like we should catch on, but it's like, to me, the more, you made a statement earlier, you said everyone wants their child to be better than them. Or it might have been an interview I did yesterday. It all run together. But we all want our kid to be better than what we were. But that doesn't mean that he can't go through what I went to be. But if you sitting here and you made it through to make him the man that he is, why can't he go through what you went through? You understand? Sometimes we try to make it easier from them to the point to where they don't go through anything.
Right.
What's your opinion on that, sir?
For my boys, I was very open with them in all of my mistakes in life. I tried to be, at least. I tried to share that hard learned wisdom. And the statement that I would make with them is that you may make mistakes, but you shouldn't make the same ones that I did. I went through that for us.
Yeah.
So I'm teaching you about that. We're gonna cut that off at the pass. Even though my wife and I, we started our walk with Christ very early, so we kept our children. They grew up in church. Now, we didn't beat them down. We didn't beat them across the head with Jesus, and we didn't open their mouth and force feed them Jesus. We just raised them in a godly environment, and there were certain things that they knew were no-brainers. They knew on Sunday morning you were getting up and you were going to church. That was a no-brainer. There were times when you may have to go to Bible study, but a lot of times when, say, if we were in church that morning, we had a second service to go to. According to what the service was, we may leave them home and not make them go. And I think we gave them enough latitude to find God for themselves. They were taught about God. They knew about God, but they had to get to a place where they had to live, trust and develop their own relationship with Him. And I thank God, not to say that we did everything right, but it worked out, because even now, all three of our children are Christians. They talk about God. They confess their faith in Christ. They're not afraid to do it publicly. But even when they go through tough times in life, that's their first resource.
Right.
Not me, not their mother, but they take their issues to Christ first. So I'm grateful for that.
Did you ever want a daughter?
Believe it or not, we did. We did. We're both would say now that we're glad that we didn't have one. But we had the oldest two very young, and we didn't have Jaron, which is the youngest. We didn't have him for another 8 or 9 years later. There's an 8 or 9 year difference between him and Jamie. And we prayed and prayed for a girl. We wanted a daughter. And when we found out that it was a boy, my wife cried. She cried, man. She cried. She was like, "Why? Why?" I say, I'll never forget. I say, God must think we're doing a good job with boys.
Well, you know that's on you though. Hey. You got wise. You shooting wise, man.
Hey, it is what it is, man. I take the blessings as they come, and but now we have, we have 3 amazing granddaughters, you know, and so those are our daughters, and so we're great.
I'm gonna say some. I'm gonna mention some words, and you just tell me what comes to mind.
Okay.
Bliston Road.
Oh man, Bliston Road. That's my stomping ground. That's where I was raised. That's my roots. That's where it all began.
That's where it all began.
That's where it all began. Bliston Road was, as a matter of fact, I was thinking about that on the drive over. It's amazing in Ocala. As small as Ocala is, as small as West Ocala is, we have so many individualized and segregated neighborhoods. And I was on Bliston Road. You all were in the quarters area.
Yeah.
And I mean, even between there, you got 12th Street, you got Richmond Heights, you got Happiness Homes, you know. So, but Bliston Road was just, and every neighborhood was was known by the individuals that lived there. So I would say, as it pertained to Ocala, Bliston Road was kind of looked at as the country boys, you know.
And that's crazy though. You know, you literally, 4 blocks over,
right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, and we were in the thick of whatever, and we were able to handle anything that we were confronted with in Ocala. But a lot of things that took place in some other environments, we didn't have to witness a lot of that.
The bread house.
Oh my God. The bread house. I remember when they built it, and my grandmother's house was directly behind it. And so it was people may not remember, back then the best bread was Marita bread.
Yeah.
And
Marita bread.
Back then Marita bread was like
what this
it was
bread?
like $1. Yeah, it was, but it's real soft. It was
real
the best
soft.
bread.
Yes, sir.
And so, A lot of time you didn't have Marita money.
Sometimes you had to get that Wonder.
You had to go get that Wonder, and it was only 25 cents for a loaf. And
The Wonder wasn't quite as bad, but I hated the one with that little lady on it, that
Sunbeam.
It tear up everything. You can't even spread your peanut butter on it, man.
But yeah, so but the bread house was just known, man, for
20-cent honey buns,
apple pies, all of those things, man. And
if we gonna talk about the bread, we gotta give a shout out to Miss Johnson, man.
yeah.
Jimmy Johnson mom, man. She was there forever.
Val. That was her name. I think her name was Val.
Yeah, I think so.
Miss Val. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think his dad's still living.
I seen both of them. I rode by there and seen them. I was like, my goodness, that's, you know what I mean? I was really shocked to see them. You know what I mean? I enjoyed seeing them.
Mm-hmm.
The name Gilmore.
The name Gilmore. I was raised just from my dad and my older brothers. I have a lot of older brothers on my dad's side.
Oh, I was gonna say I don't remember you having.
Yeah, they didn't live here. They lived here a little bit when I was very little, but most of the time they lived in Tallahassee and even the Palaca area. But they, if nothing else, they always taught me that my name meant something. And so when things got tough, they would always say things like, "You'll be all right. You're Gilmore."
Straight up.
Yeah, that's it. That's the way. Even, believe it or not, when my son broke his leg, and I'm pretty sure we'll talk about that a little bit, just recently, a couple of days when he first came home from the hospital, I was driving him, and my older brother called me, and we were talking, and he was asking how my son was doing. My son just happened to be in the car, so he started talking to him, and he was like, "How you feeling?" He was like, my son was like, "I'm okay. I get there, And he was like, and my brother said right there, he said, "You'll bounce back in no time. You're a Gilmore.
Straight up.
You're a Gilmore." So we always taught that that our name meant something, and we protected that. If nothing else, the name Gilmore, you're gonna be hardworking. You're not gonna shy away from work. You're gonna be hardworking. You're gonna be passionate about the things that you need to be passionate about and you're gonna make sure, as it pertains to your family, you're gonna take care of your family.
And it's funny, words like that. It's just simple as that. You're gonna be all right. You're a Gilmore.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And I'm like that. I tell my kids that I got 2 daughters and a son, and I got a daughter that's in the military. You know what I'm saying? And I tell her all the time, don't forget you're a Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying? And,
right.
that means, and I started telling them that young, because I don't want to tell them why. I want them to get it on their own. When they get it, no one can take it from them.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And just when you have older brothers, see, back then a big brother meant something.
Mm-hmm.
You learn a lot from big brothers.
Exactly.
Uncles and that's powerful within itself.
Mm-hmm.
You'll Gilmore.
Most definitely. 100%.
Jesus.
Where do I start? A life changer. I'll give my testimony as it pertains to Jesus. I was in. I accepted Christ in 1999. Up until that point, for the previous 3 to 4 years, I was working. I had a good job, but my life was just so unstable. I didn't know it. I thought I was living,
Mm-hmm.
and I just, certain things will happen, and I didn't know why they would happen, and things would go wrong. But I fight through it. But that didn't change the way I was living, my priorities, and I had a car, 1984 Chevy Impala, box Chevy.
Couldn't tell you nothing.
Nothing. It was the car was clean. It was. I would love to have it now, just as a collector, But that was my world. That car, outside of my children, that was it. That was it. And I mean, I had music and everything, and you couldn't tell me. I treated that car as if it was the top of the line Mercedes Benz.
Yeah.
But one night, I had some work done to it, and the guy that did the work, he lived in the forest area, and so I didn't get off work until like 11 o'clock. I said, "Hey man, I need my car. Can I come pick my car up?" And he was like, "Man, why don't you just wait? It's late. Pick the car up tomorrow. You don't need it tonight." I was like, "No, I gotta have my car. I gotta have my car." So I got somebody to take me to my car. I'm on my way back on State Road 40, and I see two vehicles coming off of the big bridge. And the first one is driving, but the second one is going, you can tell he's going real fast. The first car slowed down at the light, but the second car was going so fast, he hit the car in front of him or go around. He decided to go around, but going around, he was going so fast that he couldn't stop from hitting me. So that car hit me head on in that Chevy. And the only thing that saved me was that it was a big car. That guy was driving a smaller, like a Nissan or something like that. And everything that I lived for was taken away. The car it couldn't be repaired, frames, it was just gone. And so I didn't have any transportation. The guy didn't have any insurance. Couldn't get my car fixed. I didn't have any money because I was working a good job. I wasn't saving any money. I was buying.
Living.
I was living. I was buying outfits every week, going to the club,
Rims and music.
and so my life. So I'm depending on people and God broke me down. God broke me down to the least common denominator through that situation. I was I bought a car from a gentleman. It was a Chevy Celebrity. I bought the car from a gentleman. The reason he sold it to me for $300. Car ran very well. Mm-hmm. He sold it to me for $300 because he got in a wreck with the car. And at the time he was drinking. And he left the scene of the accident because he didn't want to get in trouble.
Yeah.
And so the car was smashed in the back. But I needed transportation. Yeah. I drove that car every day. It was dependable transportation. I'll tell you. So I didn't have enough money to fix it. Even the tail lights they were crushed. I went to the auto parts store and I got some trailer lights. And I mounted them on the back of the car so that I would be legal. And God humbled me in that situation. And at work, he changed my. I was working night shift. He changed me to day shift. And when I went to day shift, I was partnered up with a guy who was the real deal. He was a real Christian, and man, he witnessed to me every single day. And one morning, I was in a meeting, and my supervisor, I felt he disrespected me. And in turn, I disrespected him verbally. And so I went and talked to another friend of mine, tried to get him to co-sign. He said, and he didn't. I mean, he tore me down. He undressed me right then. He said, "You were wrong."
Real friend.
Yeah, you were wrong. He said, "You disrespect that man. You need to go apologize." He said, "I'm going to tell you this." He said, "God has a lot in store for you, but you're getting in your own way." He said, "You'll never have what God has for you until you get right with him." And that morning, it was a cold morning at E1. I'll never forget. I told God, "I'll serve you forever."
One of the best jobs in the county.
Yeah. I still work there. I said, yeah. I said, "God, I'll serve you forever." And I've been with him ever since.
Amen.
And I mean, there've been some times I've let him down. There's been some rough times, but God, he's never failed me. He's been right there with me.
I know you the pastor out of us. You know what I mean? I'm gonna give you some encouraging words. And a lot of times you say, well, I let him down. A lot of the teachings, especially we was brought up on tells us, like you can lose it, so to speak. You know what I mean? As long as you walking in flesh, you gonna commit sin. I mean, it's impossible. Just your thoughts. You know what I mean? You could be walking and see something. You might turn and get yourself together, but you saw it. And for a second, it looked like it's supposed to look, whatever the situation may be. But some people don't know to call on Jesus. You know what I mean? They fall off a cliff, they cussing and fussing all the way to the bottom. Till they hit the ground. Jesus won't even come out their mouth. You understand what I'm saying? So it's about acknowledging him for who he is.
Right.
You know what I mean? Even Paul, Paul say, Lord, remove this thorn from me. He's basically, because if you do, you're going to get big for your britches. You already walk around here doing these miracles. You think you're hot, you know what I mean? But it need to be something to let you know that you need me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's where that grace, and thank the Lord for grace and mercy. Amen. I used to tell people, being in prison, they have different religions, to each his own, and they want to tear out the New Testament and read the Old Testament. And, but I told them grace and mercy come through Jesus Christ. You can't find grace and mercy in the Old Testament, but when you did wrong, God, they bust you in the head with that rock.
I found out. I deal with the law.
So you don't came in, you don't kill them people, but you want mercy and grace from the court system. You killed that lady or whatever the situation is. You understand what I'm saying? So, hey, but you want grace and mercy. I say, man, go on and start at Matthew and go on and get it, man. You know what I'm saying? And that's real. You know what I mean? So this football.
Okay.
Pop Warner, Raiders.
Pop Warner. My boys started out playing. I'll tell you what. Let's back up.
Okay.
And let's go to high school. Going up all through the years, I always played basketball. I thought I was going to be a basketball player. Wanted to be a point guard. And back then, Vanguard, Coach Haley, they had good teams back then. That was the thing, and I just wanted to play basketball for Vanguard. I didn't even think about playing football. I never played organized football. All my friends did, and so in my 10th grade year of basketball, our basketball season, there was a basketball coach that came to Vanguard. He came from New York somewhere. Just wasn't a good guy, man, and I allowed him. I'll say I allowed him. I didn't know any better because of the way he treated us. I allowed him to take the love of basketball away from me. And I started playing football. I went and played football, man. I immediately fell in love with it. And my first year was my junior year, which would have been your senior year. And that's when I learned who William Robinson is. I never knew who William. I always knew Peter.
Yeah.
And so everybody's talking about this linebacker at Forest, and I said, man, that's Peter, And so Will Robinson, who is that?
Yeah,
And so
it's funny that you remember Will Robinson because on all of my plaques, newspaper, everything, it says Will Robinson, not William.
Yeah, I remember that. And so I remember your senior year, you being defensive player of the year, all of that, man. So I fell in love with football, man. Played with some great football players at Vanguard, man. My 11th grade year, quarterback Steve Bowen. 12th grade year, we had Dante Culpepper. So I played with probably two of the best quarterbacks to ever come through Vanguard, you know. And so I just fell in love with the game. So, but I never played as a child. So when I had boys of my own, every Friday, even before they were old enough to play, every Friday I took them to a football game. Every Friday. They every Friday. And they weren't out throwing throwing the ball and playing bust them up.
Yeah,
Throw them
sitting
up,
there
bust them
watching.
up. Yeah, they sat and watched the game with me, and we talked about the games. And so,
You know what? It's funny when I talk to Jamie right now. If you talk to him right now, he still believe in his heart. He could go. He could go out there and do it. He'd be like, "Man, definitely I could have made it by far." You know, and I watched him, and he was very shifted. Jamie was, you know,
listen, I don't want to bounce around too much, but the last, I don't know if you remember Richard Burton, a guy by the name of Richard Burton. He played at, he may be a year or two older than us. If he's older, he may not be old. He may be about the same age. He played at Lake Ware, offensive line, but he became a sports writer for the Star Banner, and he became a statistician. He has like the records for all over the state. Jamie, a lot of people don't know, Jamie is the all-time, all-purpose yards record holder for Marion County. You know who number 2 is?
who
Dante Culpepper.
you trying to tell me Jamie rushed for more yards?
All-purpose yards. That's
What?
rushing
And
That's
receiving.
rushing and receiving.
Didn't
And,
Dante Culpepper through?
But that's also punt returns, kickoff returns,
yeah.
all of that. Yeah. According to Richard Burton. Yeah. And yeah.
So that put him out there with the.
He may be someone you might want to try to get on the show.
Yeah,
he's still around, Richard Burton.
We'll swap numbers out. You know, yeah.
Yeah. So he had, okay, I'll tell you, I remember it. And I'll go back, Eddie, great running back. I'll tell you how great a runner. Eddie's senior year in the fall classic, what we used to call the Jamboree. They have fall classics now. The fall classic, he pulled his hamstring and he missed 5 games out of his season, although they did make a playoff run. So he played about 8 games and he ended the season with 1,500 yards rushing after missing 5 games.
Monster.
Yeah. So
But he was more of a
he was a smaller back, but he was more of a aggressive runner.
he ran a little more rugged than Jamie.
Yeah.
Jamie would kind of
looked
make you
for the
miss.
contact.
Yeah.
Yeah, he might have had 2,000 yards if he wasn't trying to run people over at 150 pounds, you know. So he had a great year. Man, it's just so much I can talk about when it comes to my kids in football. And Eddie had a lot of scholarship offers. A lot. Eddie ended up playing at FAMU. But Eddie had scholarship offers from Boston College, Temple, Tulsa, Ball State, a lot of colleges. But me and my and I want to say this because many people have never heard this from him. One of my greatest regrets as a parent was the way that I handled his recruitment. Because my wife and I wanted him to be close to home, and recruiters would come from all over the country and offer him, and I would tell them that he's going to stay home and go to school in Florida. As good as he was, I knew that one day UCF, FAU, or FIU, or South Florida, one of those schools were coming to offer him. They never did. And so until the end, I was dead set on it.
You know, some of those schools feel as though, oh, he's not. You know, they look on the list and see Temple and Boston College. Oh, well, we don't have a chance. You know what I mean? Because they wasn't that good at the time.
And as a matter of fact, he didn't sign with FAMU until May.
Wow.
They were done recruiting for that year. They were looking at kids during spring training, and they saw him on some film, and they're like, well, where did he go to school? It's like, he's not in school yet. He hasn't signed with anybody yet. And the guy got on the phone, they called the head coach, and they offered him an opportunity right there. So it was God in the mix, but man, that eased me up all the time, man.
So your youngest son, did he ever play any offense? He is straight defense.
Yes. Eddie and Jamie played strictly offense. My youngest son was both ways. So I described the three as it pertains to a running back. Eddie was the better running back of the three. Jamie was the better all-around offensive player, and all-purpose because he was better with the returning, kickoff returns, punt returns. But Jaron was just the youngest one. He's just a better all-around football player. There wasn't anything he couldn't do.
And a lot of times that's from being the youngest one. And then, he's hearing these stories. So, it's, what I mean? That's why you look in families and you like, man, everybody go to the NFL. You know what I mean? It's like, next man up,
Yeah. He wasn't competing with he was always competing with his brothers. Yeah. He wasn't competing with his classmates. Yeah. He was always competing with his brothers. And there was a certain level of football he had to attain, in his mind.
I ask you this, so it's a hard question now.
All right.
You the head coach. You coaching, you in college, you the head coach. You got Ed in his prime, Jamie in his prime, Jaron in his prime. You get to pick one of these kids. You got one scholarship left. Who you getting a scholarship to and why?
What position we recruiting for?
You need an athlete. You win with athletes. Who you got all three of them before you?
That is a hard question. I'm the head coach. I'm not their dad.
You're not their dad.
I'm just the head coach.
You're just the coach.
And I got to offer one of those guys. Honestly, knowing what I know about him, and I would say that I would offer Jai, the youngest, because he was able to see, and the reason I say that is because he was able to see what it took to make it in football, and he worked accordingly. His brothers would tell you that they never worked as hard as he did.
Right. And you can't beat the hard work. You can't get around the work. You can't get me, I've interviewed quite a few professional athletes, and all of them have certain traits that's in common. You know what I'm saying? That they're most successful people in life, you get 100 successful people, 80 of them going to have the same 5 traits. And sometimes you got to be a risk taker. A guy was telling me, he was talking about successful people. He was in a position to where he worked for a very, very prominent company, and he was in a position of creating a new agent, so to speak, a new person. And like if they give him rules, you follow the rules. But he would always take the risk taker, because in order for you to be great, you got to be willing to step outside the box. You know what I mean? If you're just going to follow the rules, we're never going to go nowhere. You got to be able to look at this and take a chance. I could get in trouble, but if it makes it, I'm the greatest. And what do you have to say about that?
Well, there's a difference. Taking a risk doesn't always mean breaking the rule. Right. Sometimes you just push the envelope and you
put the Bill Belichick on them.
Yeah, you take it to a higher standard. A lot of times we teach our children, anyone that we have leadership over, we teach them to meet the standard. But why don't we ever teach to exceed the standard? A lot of times, whether it's sports or life, whatever the standard is, we teach to the standard. Meet that just enough. Yeah. Just enough. What happens when the standard changes? And it will, at the drop of a dime. So for a football player, I'll say it this way: for a football player, the standard may be you have to have a 2.5 GPA. I'm not sure what it is now, and you have to take a certain amount of classes. So when that player has a 2.6, we say you're good.
Yeah.
Go be the best football player you could be. But what happens when Vanderbilt comes, or Duke comes, or Stanford comes, and they want to offer you, say you'll be a perfect fit,
But you just met the standard.
you met the standard for society. We have a higher standard. We need you to have a 3.5.
Right.
So when you exceed the standard, not only in that particular instance, but in life, you have much more options than everyone else. You know, so even in things such as it may just be credit rating. Yeah. You need to have good credit. You know, so we say good credit. I can get a house with 650. You know, so I'm just shooting for 650.
Right.
But what if we develop behaviors and spending practices and things that we develop disciplines that say that I want to have an 800. That now not only am I able to finance the house, but I have some bargaining power. You're not going to be able to offer me what you want to offer me as far as the interest rate. I don't have to take that because I got options over here.
That's right.
We open up things when we exceed standards. So I deal with it every day because I'm in management at E1. I'm a supervisor, and so many times people just want to meet the standard. When you exceed the standard, you have so many more options. You have more options than everyone else.
Willie Wilkerson Sr.
Mm-hmm. I worked with him for a while. We were welding together for a few years.
So you're a welder?
That was my trap. I welded for over 20 years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Romita Gilmore.
Mm-hmm. My wife, high school sweetheart. Man, we tell this story all the time. I met her. She transferred to Vanguard the year that I met her, and just so happened a good friend of hers was dating a good friend of mine, and I didn't know they were friends at the time. But one day I just saw her. I was standing outside of at Vanguard, what they call the Round Building, and I was standing by this tree, and she came walking by. And you know, back then when we saw someone that we was interested in, we did the psst. Yeah,
cool.
So I did that. She turned around, she smiled, and I didn't say nothing to her that day. But the next day, I went and waited at the tree, waiting on her, and she didn't come by. But then when I found out that she was dating, or she was good friends with a mutual friend, I just told her, the friend, to let her know I was interested, you know, and so
them was the days.
Yeah. So the rest was history. We dated for a summer. I mean, we began, as our elders would say, we began courting. Yeah, in at the end of the school year, and so we dated the whole summer. And by the time we showed up for our senior year, we were an item. Yeah. And so so we've been right there together ever since. So
okay, so we're gonna play a game called Fill in the Blank.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask you some questions. You answer quickly, precisely, to the point. First thing come to mind.
All right.
Ain't no right or wrong.
Okay.
You ready?
I'm ready.
I've always wanted to.
That's a good one. I've always wanted to be a good father.
I love when someone
Takes the opportunity to help others.
If I had to do it all over again, I would.
I would focus more on being a better husband.
If you could make it to be any professional athlete, would it be football or basketball?
Basketball.
My favorite holiday is
Christmas.
it aggravates me when someone
Chooses not to be kind.
the best quality someone could have is what?
Humility.
If I was God, the first thing I would change is
I pass.
my childhood crush was
My childhood crush. My wife.
if I could travel anywhere in the world, it would be
Los Angeles.
He-Man or Thundercat.
He-Man.
My favorite movie is
Smokey and the Bandit.
if I could go back to any age, it would be
Oh, man. If I can go back to any age, as much as, honestly, as much as I've had to deal with some hardships in life, life has been real good to me. God has blessed me. I'm not sure if I'm, there's some things that I probably would rather not have done. But I'm a true believer that all things work together for good and we come out better than we went in.
if you could have dinner with any three people, dead or alive, who would it be?
Right now, my grandfather, of course, who I said was my brother. My oldest brother passed away. And I would say my grandmother.
Martin Luther King or Malcolm X?
I would just say not only because he was Christian, but also Martin Luther King because of the fact that he had a message of love in a world of hate.
Jesus is
Love.
when I meet someone, the first thing I notice is what?
Their handshake.
If I was God, if I could ask God one question, it would be,
If I can ask God one question. What does my wife really want for dinner?
okay.
Because I don't know.
Kobe Bryant or Michael Jordan?
Kobe Bryant. And that's not saying that Kobe's better, but Kobe was my guy. I believe that. I honestly believe that Michael Jordan was the best player, or is the best player to ever play the game, but Kobe Bryant was my guy.
Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders?
Barry Sanders was a better running back.
Derrick Henry or Adrian Peterson?
Adrian Peterson is a better running back.
Randy Moss or Terrell Owens?
Randy Moss all day.
Careful now.
Randy Moss all day.
John Elway or Dan Marino?
Dan Marino played with good. Dan Marino. Dan Marino's, I think, a better quarterback. He didn't have the talent around him that John Elway had.
Okay, Deion Sanders or Darryl Green?
Yeah. Darryl Green was just faster. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Maybe. Florida State or the Gators?
I grew up, my grandfather was a Gator fan. I grew up watching the Gators, so the Florida Gators.
My greatest strength is?
My greatest strength, I would say, is my ability. I don't want to say my ability, but the ability to remain focused in the midst of distractions. And
the biggest misconception about Jamie Gilmore Sr. is what?
Greatest misconception? I'm not sure.
My greatest weakness is?
My greatest weakness is and sometimes I would say I'm a procrastinator.
Out of all the people I've read about in the Bible, I'm more like
Joshua.
I'm a pretty good fella, but I draw a line in the sand if
anything involving my family. If you threaten the well-being of my family in any way, if you threaten my ability to take care of my family, and that's just even that's my grown children now. There's some things that I have to reel myself in when it comes to my family.
if I had to star in a movie with any actor, it would be
Actor? Denzel. Denzel.
So ain't no need to ask you Denzel or Samuel L. Jackson.
It's according what the role is.
What the role is.
Yeah.
I feel you on that.
It's according. Samuel L. Jackson good for what he's good for. Certain level of craziness you need Samuel L. Jackson. Denzel couldn't have played the dude in Django.
Oh, hey, man, I ain't never want to see Samuel die so bad. Hey, man.
But it was,
boy, that man played that part. Boy.
Yeah. So yeah.
You know,
they're great in their own right.
Yeah. This part of the episode is called AMA.
Okay.
Where you, Jamie Gilmore Sr., get to ask me anything.
I get to ask you. I don't know if I want to say I'll ask you, but I'll tell you. I'll tell you something.
Mm-hmm.
Just from your journey, and I'm pretty sure some other people have told you, and just from where you've been to where you are, I think it's to be commended. The drive that you have to do what you do, that's passion on a completely different level. because I'm pretty sure many of people have counted you out and say that there's no way he's, but you continue to press your way. And you've opened up avenue or avenues to get information to people, to get content to people. And that just from our conversation, that's coming from a place that's not selfish, that's not self-motivated. That's coming from a place of conviction, spiritual conviction. And when you're being driven by some a supernatural power, it's going to take something supernatural to stop it. And there's no one with that type power. So I commend you for your belief in your belief in God, first of all, and trust in God, but your belief in yourself. So I yield the question and just supply a statement, and that's my statement. So I just want to give you your flowers.
I appreciate that,
Yeah.
man. I appreciate that. My favorite scripture in the entire Bible is Romans chapter 8, verse 31.
Oh, you 31. 8:28 is mine.
They really, all of them read together right there. When you read, you can't stop right there. You
Yeah.
got to go on down to 31.
Yeah.
But if God is for you, who could be against you?
Yep.
And I think when that really set in, who is who? You know what I mean? Who is you to come against me when God is for me?
Right.
And some people perceive, being a child of God as being arrogant, being cocky. You know Peter, so I can't sit here and fool. Peter. And I think when, the man that, you're a pastor, but it's still Jamie sitting there. I see Jamie, you know what I'm saying? Bread house. You understand what I'm saying? So we just, he made us, so he know who we are.
Right.
The gifts and the things that he instilled in us, he knew we was going to be who we are now.
Exactly.
Back then. You understand what I'm saying? So the gifts and calling of the Lord are without repentance. He ain't going to take them from you because you decide not to serve him.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? Tupac would have been a mind-blowing pastor. You know what I mean? And in his own right, he was, giving his own ministry, so to speak. You know what I mean? But I appreciate the kind words, man. I'm like I say, man, as a childhood friend, I'm happy to see you become the man that you are also.
Thank you, man. But it's all God. I can't explain it. Even I tell people because people ask, when did I begin to hear from God? How did I know I was called to preach? And I didn't know. I know that there was something special, and as I got older, I got saved, and I accepted Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, and I began to devote my life to Him. And so, when I first got saved, man, my wife and I, we were living with my mother and father-in-law, because our home was being built, and I got off from work before everybody. So the time that I got off from work was like an hour before everyone got home. I would rush home or rush to their house so I could read the Bible before everybody got there, just to read the Bible in silence. And so as I began to grow in God, and that's just an example of how on fire I was. As I began to grow in God and mature in Him, I realized that God had been speaking to me my whole life. My whole life as a child, God would speak to me and speak words to me of affirmation to let me know that He had a job for me, that there was a calling on my life. I didn't know it as a child, but as I matured in God, it was revealed to me. We never know. We never know what's next. We just have to trust God. I'll share something with you. and I'll never forget this. And it is a word that came from a young lady. When Jamie was being recruited, USF South Florida, they were recruiting him. So we went to for a visit to a game, and of course, when you go, the recruits they pair them up with, usually it's a young lady, to what they call I don't want to say an escort, but it's someone just to lead them around. And the young lady was sitting with us, and she said the most profound thing. I'll never forget it, man. And she, at the time, she's probably like 19, at the most 20. And she began to talk, and she was like, what she wanted to do in life. And she began to say, what she's doing in school, what she's studying and all that. And she say, but when she say all of that is good, but when you begin to be obedient to God and you trust God, everything else is logistics. Now, logistics, you know what that is? That's just moving things from one place to another. Yeah, that's just moving things. So basically, at that age, she knew that if you trust God and allow God to do what He does, everybody else is just playing their part, man.
Romans 8:31, man. If God is for you, who could be against you?
Everything else is logistics, but I'll never forget that. So, man, like I say, man, my family's been blessed. My wife, lovely, beautiful spirit. She got some fire to her, but she's a child of God. And
we have to have, I believe that the right woman in a man's life changes everything.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely.
I mean, you probably couldn't even imagine breathing without your wife. You know what I'm saying? It's like, they literally replace mama. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
When we think about it, they replace mama to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's just so important. Men, we, even in a king, you got the king, he sit on the throne, but everybody knows who run the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's so important, man. So, I mean, big shout out to both of you. You know what I mean? Even the things that you guys do in the community, and with your sons carrying on the legacy. So, the Gilmore, that name, stands and holds power within our community. And that's a great thing. And that's all you can ask for. You know what I'm saying? When you gone, it's something, we know that Gilmore's been here.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Gilmore.
Mm-hmm.
There was, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so now there's a Jamie the Third. So the name continues to go on. So
and it's funny, when I interview him, like I say, it's 2.5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't no kid, no nothing. And I asked him, I say, so is it gonna be a third? He was like, yeah, man, I hope so. I'm working on it. You know what I mean? He spoke that thing into existence.
It's amazing.
He wasn't prophesizing, was he?
Oh man, he knew what he was gonna do. So, but that's added. I don't want to say pressure, but that's accountability and responsibility to me. They have that name. Who am I to mess that up? So I try to do everything I can to
as a father, I know there's times in life, when we make decisions, you faced with a situation. Mm-hmm. Like even like when you go back to when you was younger, you say you felt like the man disrespect you, the way we was raised,
mm-hmm.
It's like, it's checkmate, man. You know what I'm saying? Right there on the spot.
Mm-hmm.
We got our whooping in Winn-Dixie.
Right.
Down the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
You got popped in the mouth right there at school in front of the principal. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, that you find yourself in a situation and you often thought about, every decision you make once you become a parent is basically for the kids. But specifically, let's say you was in a situation and it's like, man, I got to make the right choice. because of my children. Because they grown now, but I can't mess. You know what I mean? Because in the end, let's say you got two sons. You got a father and a son. I'm sorry. You got a senior and you got a junior. And the senior do something crazy. That newspaper it might not have senior at the end of there. All they gonna say is
Right. The name.
Todd Johnson did this. And so, and it's like we talked about perception. Once it circulates, it's hard to, you in court and you say something you weren't supposed to say, well, strike that from the jury. You can't unhear
They can't unhear it.
You can't unhear what you heard,
Exactly. Yeah, it's there've been a lot of times where I've had to humble myself for the team.
For the team.
For the team. Whether it was at work, I remember I was working in an environment, and I'm working with guys that I thought we were good friends, and I thought they were good people. But we got in an environment with some other people, and the guys that I thought now they're using the N-word, And so I could have cut up, but it was more them than me. Not to the point that it would have got physical, but when we got to the point where, well, why were you so mad? Why did you behave like you did? Or because of what he said. I can't trust them to be on my side and admit that he said that. I had to take that because I needed a job. Yeah. I had to take care of the team. That was just one particular environment that happened. That if that happened today, it wouldn't. But at that particular juncture in my life, I had to go through that, and it wasn't. It was more for me than anything else. There are certain things that are bigger than our pride, and
the team.
The team. That's it.
You don't mind me adopting that. The team serious, man. The team.
The team. No.
And as I sit here and I hear you talk, a lot of times, like you answered a question a while back. It's almost like coming straight out of my mouth, like my heart. You understand what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so many times we, as the black man, have to suck it up for the team. Because, we know that, okay, we have to play this situation out. Okay, if I go ahead and, even if I don't pop him upside the head, if I go to human resource, whatever, they got, everybody got their team. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? And that's hard, man. I just watched the movie today with Tyler Perry and whatever the son name is, when Tyler Perry, a regular person or whatever, he got a son. And Joe, Tyler Perry's daddy, drove the son across town, to cross country to go to college or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he taught him things. And he was talking about, because the kid, by the daddy being so successful, he was going to all of the privileged schools, and he's the only black kid in school and class. And so he's blind to the struggle. They're teaching him that, why deal with the past, the futures, and it's a lot of things he just didn't know. You understand what I'm saying? When it comes to the struggle. This is Black History Month. Mm-hmm. And growing up in Marion County, we was a little slow. We was a little behind, Mm-hmm. I didn't go to school with a Caucasian person until the 5th grade. 1985, they drove buses into the quarters and sent us to Oakcrest. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, you see these little photos that people put up every now and again. Madison Street, Howell Elementary, everything looked the same. Teachers, everything. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? It's a great thing to, one thing about love, I love everyone. I meet a man as a man. Right. But, I have a very strong spirit of discernment. And when I sense it, I call it like I see it. Mm-hmm. Because I know my heart is pure. That makes sense. You know what I'm saying? Right. I know my heart is pure. So if I'm sensing it, sometimes I try to push it away. No, that's the enemy devil trying to make me believe that about this, you know what I'm saying, da-da-da. But I had to learn the spirit. You understand what I'm saying? And when he showed it to me, it is what it is. You know, that doesn't mean I have to mistreat him because I'm mature enough to just deal with him accordingly. But at the same time, you know, you show him grace and you win him over by love. You know what I'm saying? You just love him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talk, love, communication. You know, just communicate and, you know, just true love conquers all.
Yeah.
You know, just simple as that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Mr. Gilmore, this is the last part of the episode. It's called Final Thoughts. You're going to look into this camera directly over my shoulder here, and you're going to get a word of your final thoughts, sir.
Wow. You're supposed to give me a warm-up for that one. My final thoughts are tonight. I can't wrap up. Man, there's so much I have. But just I'll go back to the team. And I think everyone has to realize that we're not living this life alone. Everyone has a team, and at some point you're going to decide whether or not who team you're going to be on and who's going to be on your team. And once you get that figured out, I think we ought to govern ourselves accordingly and do what's best for the team, whether that's your family, whether that's your wife, your spouse, your children. If you haven't got to that point, your team may be your siblings, your parents, your mother, but you still have to make decisions that's not only beneficial for you, but it's got to be for the team. I'm grateful. I'm elated. God blessed me with the team, and even now, I have no problem with my children taking leadership roles at times. Mm-hmm. You know, there are times when I'm at their event, they're the boss. I'm just there to help, whether that may just be cooking hamburgers, cleaning up, whatever. It's their thing. God bless them with that particular vision. I don't get in their way. I allow them to be the coach at that time. And now it's to the point where even my youngest son, he's 24. And he's getting to some place where he's having to call some shots and not depending on my counsel, but he relies upon my support more than that of my information. Right. So at times you may be the quarterback, but sometimes it's the defense is on the field. Yeah. So you got to allow the linebacker to be the captain at that time. So I'm grateful. I'm humbled. I'm by no means perfect. I just enjoy life. I'm a simple man. If you ever want to find me, I'm not hard to find. Especially Monday through Sunday morning, I'm probably working or doing something with church. I live for Sunday evening, and all I do is sit in the backyard. And so I'm a simple guy. You want to give a shout out to the church that you pastor? Yes, I'm sorry. How can they reach you and everything if they want? You can reach us on Facebook, Union Missionary Baptist Church, UMBC of Dunellen. I'm the pastor, Reverend Jamie D. Gilmore Sr. We're located in Dunellen, in the greater Chatmire area, and we're not hard to find. Our services begin at 11 o'clock, and we have a great time, and we don't spend all day doing it. We just make the most out of our time with Jesus, and we just try to train people to go out and make the world a better place. We want to be light. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. That's the one and only. Well, that's the one of three. Let me rephrase myself. One of three, Mr. Jamie Gilmore Sr., and I am your host, William Robinson of TLC Talk Love and Communication, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. Right here on my story, we had the one and only Jamie Gilmore Sr. He shared his story, gave us some wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, ladies and gentlemen. Love. We're going to always, you ever heard the saying, we got to take one for the team. For the team. Teamwork make the dream work, ladies and gentlemen. Right here at TLC Talk Love Communication, ladies and gentlemen. Remember, we only got one life to live, and it's a whole lot easier
with love and communication. You can donate to this channel with Cash App, Anybody Love You with a U, PayPal, Robinson74William at gmail.com, Zelle 352-209-33. And remember, if nobody told you they love you today, William Robinson loves you.